Hello, we're the Nostalgia Critic critics. We remember Doug so you don't have to. Today we watched a movie that I protested against watching, but we watched it anyways. So Aiden, what's the plot of Atop the Fourth Wall?
Atop the Fourth Wall follows up directly after To Boldly Flee.
It's the Spider-Man Far From Home of To Boldly Flee.
Yep. Linkara, sometime in the past, 4 years before this movie, built a spaceship.
I'm here to talk to you about your spaceship.
And then a different spaceship gets sent into space to go to Jupiter, which was the setting partially of To Boldly Flee. There they find the destroyed remains of Doug's house, where Mecha Linkara is brought back, and he assimilates all the astronauts. And the US government is like, Linkara, only you can go up there and stop Mecha Linkara. And then Linkara and Mecha Linkara fight in a rented warehouse in downtown Minneapolis.
Yep, pretty much.
So Connor, what'd you think of Atop the Fourth Wall?
My thoughts on this film are going to be fairly brief because my mind was numb the entire time I was watching this. Basically, from a narrative structure way, it's better than Doug's movies. Truth be told. Because it's actually a focused group of characters. It's a handful of B and C list B, C, and D list fucking Channel Awesome guys and the weird greasy fat man.
He was also a Channel Awesome guy, I think. I looked him up.
Oh.
It's hard to tell what any of these people do.
I don't know if they're friends with Linkara, if they're Channel Awesome guys.
I try to stalk them all. All of them are apparently Channel Awesome people. I don't think any of them are with Channel Awesome
Cinema
anymore.
Snob.
Oh, Cinema Snob.
Cinema Snob.
But it's really hard to stalk these people because I looked up the fat greasy guy and his last 4 weeks of posts have just been like, man, I really love those peaceful protesters burning down cities, and I hate police and I hate the government. And it's really hard to tell what the fuck it is they actually do. But the fat greasy guy makes $2K a month on Patreon, which is absurd. I don't know what the fuck he does.
That guy makes $2K?
I don't know what he does. He hosts some internet radio show, apparently.
Oh. That guy makes almost as much money as me.
Makes almost as much as Linkara.
Linkara. Well, regardless, they all... So narratively, from a narrative structure, it is better. Because it's exactly what I said about Boldly Flee. Where I'm like, if you have a concise set of characters, you can actually focus on them and give everybody something to do, and it's not just 40 stinky people standing in a room.
Yeah, it's just 6.
Yeah, this is 6 stinky people standing in a room. But people actually do shit in this movie for the most part. Linkara plays 20 characters. Of course, since we didn't follow the Atop the Fourth Wall canon, I have no idea who any of these characters are. Is the government agent a standard guy? I know 90s Kid from the memes is a real character. The Frank Sinatra one.
Seems like he was some sort of...
Mecha Linkara's from To Boldly Flee. But the problem with this movie is it says less than To Boldly Flee does somehow. Basically, they just wind up on Linkara's spaceship and they fly out and then they go to a warehouse and fight a guy. That's the whole movie, and it's 2 hours and something minutes long. And it's learn to fucking make movies. I'm sorry. It's certainly better than any of Doug's output. Actually, I would still argue that Kick-Assy is the best Channel Awesome movie I've seen.
I would too. This thing's boring as paint.
Because this is boring as watching paint dry. At least Kick-Assy was a standard length. There was a lot more funny shit to laugh at. This movie was shot more competently, maybe because there were less moving parts than Doug's films. This is the Spider-Man Far From Home to Boldly Flee's Avengers Endgame. I think that's an apt description, because you look at it, and it's you have huge crossovers of untalented actors, because they're not trained as actors, coming together in a group to shoot the Doug films. But more unintentionally comedic shit happens, and at least Doug tries to do shit that's more entertaining. This movie's just like fly around in space and look at the CGI guy did a cool laser beam out of the spaceship. And it's like, right. This movie actually had legitimate spaceship sets, which was kind of cool in comparison to Boldly Flee, which was just, I formed my basement into a spaceship so I don't have to pay money to make a set. It was fucking boring. It really was not pertinent to this marathon at all. So the fact that we watched this is ridiculous to me. Well, I guess I will say we found out what happened to Linkara. Shot and died. So because I don't understand the Atop the Fourth Wall canon, I can't really comment on to what the fuck was going on the whole time.
What did you think about
Brad Jones was kind of funny. I honestly think Cinema Snob is my favorite Channel Awesome member, despite the fact that...
He's kind of looping around for me.
Right. I thought he was pretty cringy, but honestly, all things considered, he's probably the best member, even though our past disagreements. But I'm willing to make amends with Cinema Snob, to be honest with you.
Apparently, according to the leaks, Cinema Snob always hated the movies and never wanted to be in them, but he knew that him being in them would give exposure to the smaller people, so he put up with it. He seems like a kind of nice guy.
Right, well, he also probably was getting exposure himself, although I feel like most of the die-hard Nostalgia Critic fans also subscribe to Cinema Snob, because he's probably the closest equivalent to Doug.
I mean, yeah, he was the first other Channel Awesome member.
Because I really only watched Doug as a kid, and I didn't really even... I knew Channel Awesome had other people, but I was kind of like, oh, who cares? Yeah. I thought it was more like spam links, where I'd like click whatever a Linkara was, and I figured like Ron Jeremy would start trying to sell me penis pills or something. That was just on a weird, funny link on his website. So I kept to the Nostalgia Critic sections. So really my first exposure with Cinema Snob was my aforementioned beef with Cinema Snob.
Yeah.
Where he did call me C-Dub, a very hurtful, dare I say, racist nickname. But no, Cinema Snob lights up these movies. He's the closest thing to having comedic timing.
Hi, I'm the Cinema Snob. You might remember me from the Cinema Snob.
He's the best part of Channel Awesome. I hate to say it. I mean, I guess Spoonie. I like Spoonie too. But
Spoonie's not in this one.
And Larry Bundy Jr. He's not. Well, Spoonie is in this movie for 12 seconds, cameo. But yes,
Doug
I know
is
what
too.
you're saying. Yeah, I mean, truth be told, it was fucking horrible. But it was more concise and more well done than the Doug movies, just not as entertaining because it was competent. It was incompetent enough to be shitty, but competent enough to be boring, if that makes sense. Like, it's not so bad it's good, which I think, like, To Boldly Flee is so bad it's good, and then it goes on for another 2 hours. Like, if To Boldly Flee was an hour and a half, it'd be a fucking hilarious movie.
Yeah.
Like, just make a highlight reel of the funny shit that happens. And that's why even, like, Suburban Nights and fucking Kick-Ass, I kind of didn't hate watching. While they were still boring as piss for 90% of the movie, that 10% of the time was hilarious and made it laughable. I mean, that's the same shit with The Room. Like, you can't watch The Room and unironically say I wasn't bored for 90% of that.
Yeah.
If you do,
You
got
can
fucking
pretty much
issues.
get the Room experience by watching a clip show.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. If you cut down Kick-Ass, Suburban Nights, and To Boldly Flee into a clip show, there'd be funny shit to watch. If you cut this down to good scenes and funny shit that happens, you can just throw the movie in the trash. I guess the FBI agent in blackface was kind of funny.
Medkit, give me the medkit!
I can't.
Don't talk.
He was
supposed to be dead, but it looked like it was straight up blackface.
Well, the thing exploded in his face. It's supposed to be like the Looney Tunes where they got the black powder on
right,
their face.
it was ill-informed.
He did look
for
very
sure.
black, though.
He was wearing fucking shoe polish blackface. They're like, let's just put this fucking shoe polish on you. And he's like, what's with that red lipstick, Linkara? And it's like,
Why are you kneeling on my neck, Linkara? I can't breathe.
might be a little early to put that one in there. That one might have to hit the chopping block, but I'm not editing, and I'm not the one who said it. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. So, Aiden, what did you think of Atop the Fourth Wall?
It's boring as shit. It had the connection to Boldly Flee, so I felt obligated to watch it, and I regret it. It's
Dude,
very
if this
boring.
is the Avengers Infinity War. Yes, it is. This is Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
And that was Avengers Infinity War. Think about it. Doug goes away, gets pulled into the mysterious dimension.
But Doug doesn't
He
get
didn't
brought
get
back
sick,
in this one. He
right.
gets brought back in demo reel. All this did come out after demo reel, so I suppose we watched it in the wrong spot. But
How? I mean, I guess it is, but it seems like such a sequel to Boldly Flee.
it
I
is.
guess
It
is
just
confusing.
took place. It was just made later, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't like directly come after to Boldly Flee, like my understanding initially was.
Yeah, I thought that's how it was too. But yeah, it's very boring. There's like weird parts where it tries to get introspective and philosophical. Like when Mars Girl and the Cardboard Robot talk about how reviewers shouldn't make movies. And it was like very bizarre. Mecha Linkara looks terrible at every scene. He starts out with the bad like cut on his head, and it's clearly just like putty slapped on his forehead, and it shows, and he gets up close in the camera, and then he's just wearing some mask he got at a Halloween store, some metal mask, and then it's a Halloween skeleton spray painted chrome. It looks so bad, and the whole last fight scene is bad. I don't know why Angry Joe shoots lightning out of his hands.
Yeah,
Can someone explain to me?
Maybe that was like part of the Angry Joe lore. Maybe he showed up in Linkara's and getting the power. Couldn't tell you because he doesn't do that in the other movies. He's just like Solid Snake in the last movie.
Yeah.
You know what else I want to point out? And I'm a comic book fan, but every time Linkara talked about his love of reviewing comics, I cringed so fucking hard. He'd be like, I love sequential art. I won't call it comics. I like reviewing sequential art. The good, the bad, the perfect.
Yeah. I mean, at least this
It's like, ugh.
movie had some tangential references to reviewing things instead of just not. I
Like
guess.
those Doug movies. Dude, that is the thing. I guess since this is the last movie we have to look at, I just want to bring up this thought. Reviewers should not make movies. It's a different talent to objectively say what's good and bad about a movie. Just because you know what's good and bad about a movie doesn't mean you're going to have the managerial skills to create a fucking film. Doesn't mean you'll be able to be a good enough writer to write a fucking film.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. YouTubers do the same shit all the time. You look at any fucking YouTube movie and it's like, oh, I'm good at making web videos where I set up a fucking tripod and I start filming myself, or I do a voiceover of something, or I do vlogs. So now I'm gonna fucking shoot a movie. And it always turns out like shit. Because you're not a trained actor, you're not a fucking director, you're not a writer, so don't fucking do it. Because it's gonna turn out like shit. And then all the other reviewers are going to roast your ass. You're going to look like a huge fucking tool when I watch the re-upload on YouTube and roast you for it.
Yeah. Mars Girl's my least favorite Channel Awesome person.
Right.
I really hate her. I don't like seeing her weird, creepy, undead spud
I don't
face.
think that's true. There's a lot of bad... She's up there for sure.
But you know, in the last
Sci-Fi Guy's my least favorite.
in the last three movies, they were carried by Spoonie mostly, and also Film Brain, but less so Film Brain himself, and more laughing at Film Brain's future.
Film Brain is
Looking
also
back.
one of the best actors, although he is
Oh,
also
Film Brain
one
is
of the
one of the
best
betters.
memes.
Film Brain is definitely one of the better.
Film Brain, Spoonie, and Cinema Snob are the only three I could call coming close. They're like, I mean, if we're talking Channel Awesome tier list, for the acting abilities I would expect from Channel Awesome, you know, you got Spoonie up in S tier, Film Brain and Cinema Snob in A tier, Doug in like C tier, and everybody else, well, Doug and Angry Joe in C tier, and everyone else is triple F tier.
I wouldn't even say... The nice thing about Cinema Snob is that unlike everyone else, he clearly doesn't take these things seriously and just does whatever.
Right.
His scenes in this movie were generally cringe, but also it felt like he didn't give a shit and he was just doing it to help out. And so he kind of just did whatever, and they kind of just let him.
Dude, Cinema
And
Snob
he-
has a
he kinda
lengthy
carries this
fucking
movie.
IMDb. He was a filmmaker before he fucking got into this.
Yeah, he was.
I guess he just met Rob in film school or
Yep.
something and was like, I guess I'll just be on your fucking channel.
That's
Then
how it was.
realized that's where the money was, so he just did it.
Yeah. And unlike Doug, Cinema Snob has an attractive wife somehow. Cinema Snob's wife's pretty hot. Doug's married to
A whale.
someone that belongs in a fish tank at
A
SeaWorld
fish
doing
tank?
flips.
You know, Doug's wife in the wild would live 70 years. Fucking Doug's captivity. She's only gonna live 15. It's
Oh, no.
cruel, dude. I'm
But
sorry.
yeah, Cinema Snob kind of more or less carried this shitty, boring mess. Everything about it's fucking boring and miserable, and I do not like it.
We barely even talked about Linkara in this review.
There's nothing to say.
There isn't. Linkara's the most wooden. He's not blatantly terrible like fucking Mars Girl is or something.
He kind of
Like,
just walks around monotoning, and it's boring. And he
Right.
has 5 characters that are all the same. His only character that's different, the only character that's not monotone is fucking 90s Kid, and he's the most obnoxious shit ever.
It's like his shitty ass Bart Simpson impression.
Yeah. And then the rest of them are like, hi, I'm Linkara. Hi, I'm Frank Sinatra Linkara.
See, I didn't
Hi, I'm Mecha Linkara.
I didn't really know who Linkara was as a kid, but I'd click on his comic book reviews when I was a kid. And I just thought they had the shittiest fucking quality, and all of his takes were garbage. Even as a child, I thought Linkara was too shitty to like. And this motherfucker makes $3,000 a month on Patreon. Me, as a literal child, probably around 11 years old, would click on a Linkara video, watch it for 2 seconds, and back out because his reviews were so fucking dog shit.
Dude, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
So Connor, would you recommend Atop the Fourth Wall, the movie?
No. In many respects, it is the best Channel Awesome movie because it actually feels on the borderline of a real movie. Really shitty movie.
Yeah.
A really shitty movie. But it's more concise. It has a protagonist, it has an antagonist, and it has a handful of side characters that have enough screen time. Honestly, Linkara, they really wrote like I know Linkara is the main character, but the side characters are pretty under fucking developed if you don't know them from their series. That's the fucking problem with these movies too. It's like if you don't fucking know the intricate lore of that kid that dressed up as Harry Potter and fucking Suburban Nights, and I'm not talking about Film Brain, you're gonna be confused as fuck why everybody gets such a hard on over him at Boldly Flee. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of lore to keep up with. The Channel Awesome ones had a bunch of literally who's in it, and I'm glad Linkara managed to get one I didn't know, because I recognized all the others from Doug reviews, and then the fucking weird greasy man showed up, and he was just like...
the weird greasy man I didn't recognize at all. I don't even think
He just
was
did
in
this the
any
whole
of
movie. He
Doug.
always looked like confused and scared. He was always like...
Right. I like when he got shot and he like falls, like he's supposed to like fly back and fall down, but since they didn't have mats or anything and didn't know how to shoot an action scene, he kind of just like falls back slightly and it looks like children LARPing on the playground. But yes. Also, the spray painted Nerf guns were pretty decent props. I was impressed.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Linkara went in with a fucking crispy $200, bought up every fucking Nerf gun and a couple cans of spray paint, and just took them home. Props done. Now I just need to rent the set.
Let's be honest.
You think he
pulled
he
his own-
already had them?
He already had them and spray painted from his manly Nerf gun battles that you know he has.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, you think Linkara would spray paint his perfectly pristine Nerf guns? He probably had to buy 2 out of autism. One to keep mints on card and one to spray paint for the film. Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend this film to anyone. It's literally probably one of the shittiest movies I've ever seen. If we're talking about an enjoyment level. So Aiden, what did you think? I was gonna say your turn. So Aiden, what did you think of Atop the Fourth Wall?
You already asked me.
Oh, yeah. So, Aiden, would you recommend Atop the Fourth Ball?
No.
Views over.